So I welcome you to HSS HIS 104 class, Introduction to Economic History. So in this course, we'll be examining various topics that has to do with the elementary themes in economic history. The first topic we'll be looking at in this course is Introduction to Economic History. After that, we'll go into the uh, definition, of course, of economic history, which is part of the first topic. And the next topic is economic history and other disciplines. We'll look at the relationship between economic history with economics, with sociology, with anthropology, with geography, with political economy, all right, with botany, and so on and so forth, sociology. So after that, we'll look at the evolution of markets, evolution and function of markets in West Africa, in pre-colonial West Africa. Then in the fifth week, thereabout, we look at the Malthus theory of population. Malthus theory of population, right, where we look at how the ways in which theoretical postulations have helped in regulating demographic, all right, surge across the globe. How the developed societies have invented theories which has helped in helping countries determine or also regulating the amount of population in their various countries. And after that, we will then switch to the topic on world economic system, world economic systems. So this topic is divided into two parts. The part one of it will focus on definition or conceptualization, of course, of world economic system. Then we'll narrow to two types of economic systems. All right, we'll look at mercantilism and laissez-faire. All right, and after that, we'll look at economic growth and economic development. We want to look at the differences or the relationship between economic growth and economic development. All right, as a very useful concept that helps to measure how far development or changes are occurring in societies. And after that topic, we will look at W. Rosto's theory, all right, of growth. W. Rosto's growth theory, all right, and I think that's my eighth topic. Then we'll come back to World Economic System 2, all right, where we'll look at capitalism and socialism, all right, as a concept, we juxtapose them, right, and see the overlapping of these, concepts and theories and how it has shaped the global economy. All right. Then after that, we'll come to industrial revolution and industrialization in Britain. Okay. And after that topic, I think about topic 10 or so, we'll look at colonialism and its impact in Africa. Colonialism and its impact in Africa. And lastly, we'll then consider globalization, all right, and also its implication, globalization, all right. So having said all of this, we'll just start by looking at the definition of economic history. I believe you can all see my slide. Can you all see my slide? Can you see my slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right,
sir.
so in this introductory topic, we are considering introduction to economic history, where we look at the definitions of economic history. All right. If you like, I wouldn't mind if everybody can type their names and their matric number in the chat box so that the course rep could help me extract it, copy them, and send to me after the class. All right. So to also have a record of attendance, class attendance. All right. So in this course topic, we'll be looking at the origin of economic history, the nature and meaning of economic history, the theory and history, all right, that shapes economic history, all right, and we summarize it. Okay, so it is important to know that history is a study of the past events and development, right, in different societies. Of course, historians have different definitions to how different pattern or concepts in which they define history. You will see some scholars will say history, all right, is a record of the past event that provides the impetus to understand the past, to appreciate the present, and to project into the future. All right. Some will say history is a dynamic phenomenon that deals with changes and continuity in different society. That is, history, all right, is not a predictable mechanisms. All right. History does not repeat itself. You must have heard that. So history is also the study of past event and development. Right. So different aspects of the past are usually studied with different methods, all right, either thematically or chronologically. All right. Am I making sense? So in this context, this also applies to the study of economic history. So history is also the study of how to and research and write history. So that is area they call historiography. Later, as you progress in by 300 level and 400 level, you take some courses on historiography. So different kinds of history, are actually studied, right? Uh, at the university, if you like, we have social aspect of history, social history, political history, cultural history, diplomatic history, gender history, maritime history, administrative history, diplomatic, military, and so on and so forth. All right. I believe some of these things you must have done them or you do them in your classes, especially on introduction to history class. So let's look at some of these different field of history that I've mentioned, either social history, either economic history, political history, gender history, all have their different methodologies, all right, and mechanisms through which they interrogate or interact with their discipline. So economic history is quite different. On the other hand, economic history happens to be a subset, all right, of history, all right, it's a subset of history, and it's also studied by borrowing concepts, methods, and theories from other disciplines. So economic history is quite unique compared to the conventional branches of history like political history, like gender history, and so on. All right, because economic history is highly interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary is in the sense that it's not a discipline that functions mainly within the department or field of history. All right, it interacts with other disciplines such as sociology, as we're going to see subsequently, such as political economy, demography, statistics, biology, all right, political science, and so on and so forth. So economic history is a subset of history and is studied by also borrowing theories and concepts from various disciplines. Okay, so what we are looking at is to look at the ways in which scholars have tried to develop this discipline. So at the end of this class or this topic, so the key objectives that we want to achieve is that you must be able to define economic history. You must know the structure and nature of different economics. All right, as we're going to see, as I've mentioned in the course outline, you must know the usefulness and limitations of economic history, especially and its relationship with other disciplines. Okay, whether it's sociology, it's political science, and all of that. All right, and so we'll just go into how did economic history develop? What is about the origin? What was the structure of economic history? How did it develop? Right, in before this period. So give me a minute, please. So, economic history developed during the 1950s, as well, like during the 19th century. So when there were agitations and quests desired by scholars, all right, in anthropology, especially in core history, all right, to find a better understanding to economic phenomena in society, rather than just analyzing every phenomenon, every issue through the prism of sociology, political science, and history. So it was imperative for uh, the academia or of that time to invent new approaches and new conceptual tools and methodologies in which they will better understand the structural workings of their society economically. Right, and this started in the 19th century, where a descriptive method was probably used, and later scholars in the United States proceeded by introducing economic history to further deepen historical investigation, all right, for them to understand issues quantitatively beyond qualitative, approach that had, characterized the study of history in the society. And by the 1950s, American scholars, all right, added the quantitative methodology, otherwise known as the Clio science, which was seriously criticized on various grounds, especially on its arrogant claims and use of statistical data, because scholars before this period have always relied on the qualitative, you know what I mean, qualitative and quantitative. All right, qualitative is just a mere historical analysis and investigations that does not include, all right, or uh, incorporate the use of statistical data. So by the 1950s, a group of American scholars felt it was necessary. You cannot write economic history without data, without statistical analysis, for you to know the quantity, for you to know the volume of trade, for you to know the pattern of accumulation, the calculating growth pattern and all the stuff. So in European tertiary institutions, political economy started to be integrated into economic history. All right. So this actually gave a tremendous boost, all right, optimism into the study of economic history. So economic history will later specialize, economists, pardon me, who later specialized in economic history took time to study the nitty-gritty of history, all right? And in this context, in like manner, historians started studying economics and also subsequently became experts in economic history. So the fusion, the interactions between core economics and historians was what actually gave birth to the subfield of economic history. The adoption or the incorporation of social sciences, methodologies, right, and approaches, especially the statistical and quantitative approach, was what actually redefined the core of economic history. Right. So, what's the nature and meaning of economic history? I've taken time at the beginning to define what history is. So, what is economic history? So economic history is a subfield which studies the history of economic aspect of societies in the past, all right, such as the economic use of resources like land, like labor and capital, all right, and the decisions that connect these together. So how it measures how rational decisions are made, right? It measures effective the initiatives, the rationale behind the use or mobilization of economic resources like land, like labor, like capital. I believe some of you in your secondary school, you must have done courses on, let's say, factors of production, where you know much about land, all right, the characteristics of land, all right, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, and so on. So it is the examination of the past performance of economies, whether agriculture, fishing, industrial or trade economies, that characterize what economy. So it's economic history is a discipline that gauge to try to examine the performance of economies, all right, whether local economics, domestic, national economy, regional economies, global economy. All right. So the concept of economy, all right, means two things. One is that it connotes the idea of making a prudent use of money, resources, labor, or time by avoiding wastages. All right, efficient utilization of resources, if you like, and also it also deals with control and management of the money, the goods, and other resources of a community, society, of household. Right, that is to say that so it is a way in which, for instance, the government in your state, either in Lagos State, make judicious use of the money of the taxes that people pay, of the federal allocation received from the FCT, all right, and how these are used to develop infrastructure, goods, to make goods and services available, right, and to make life more livable, for people, all right, in the society. So it also includes prudent use of money and resources, labor, or at the domestic or individual level, household level. So we have such economies also as capitalist, socialist, and market economy. So economic history deals with also the way, the modus operandi, all right, the structure or the characteristics, all right, the ideologies that shapes the running, the everyday functioning of various economies, such as, of course, you are aware that there are countries, as I've told you, we are going to treat world economic system. There are countries, different countries of the world adopt different economic system. There are some countries that practices the capitalist, neoliberal capitalist system. There are countries which imbibe a mixture of socialist and capitalist systems, like China, all right, and some of the Scandinavian countries, all right. But there are countries that practice extremely market economies, capitalist systems, capitalist economies, like the United States and Western Europe. So economic history helps us to understand the various models adopted by different societies, different countries. So economic history is also a branch of the general history which emphasizes and focuses on the past economic conditions of mankind in a particular society, or let's say in pre-colonial period, in a kingdom, an empire, or a social formation in particular period and at a particular geographical location. So this is what economic history does. It focuses on past economic activities as opposed to conventional economics, which examines contemporary economic development. Economic history also examines contemporary, all right, in some contexts, but the focus of economic historians is basically to unravel, to see how past economic decisions, initiatives, all right, and approaches has shaped contemporary developed. I gave you a definition of history, that history itself is the record of the past event that helps us to appreciate, to understand the past, to appreciate the present and project. So economic history is not based on it's not based on predictions, all right, like core economists do, all right, using hypotheses, envisaging what can happen. Economic historians take decisions, analyze, all right, issues based on what had happened in the past to inform the present, all right, and take future measures, preventive measures, and so on and so forth. Okay, so nature, we are still on the nature and meaning of economic history. So it is on the basis of what I've said that economic history is a study of the past economic activities and their organization. All right, the functions of economic institutions like markets, like banks, guilds, families, firms, including their structures and changes. All right, so the structure and performances of the sectors and the subsector of an economy, all right, like agriculture, for instance, like mining, all right, like fishing, forestry, poultry, livestock, trade, transport, all right, waterways, infrastructure, banking, finance, industry, communication, and so on and so forth. These are some of the domains of economic history. So these are economic history interrogates, all right, the performance of these various sectors and subsectors within an economy to see how much a society has developed or underdeveloped. So there are various theories, all right, that are used, all right, in historical in the, analysis of historical interpretation, all right, in economic history. So economic history, unlike core history, the core branch of history, core branches of history, right? Economic history deploy various theories and concepts and methods in their explanation about uh, a society. So, what is theory? A theory is an explanation of the general principles of an act, all right, or science, It is also a reason supposition put forward or proposition put forward to explain facts or events. So, unlike other branches of history who believe that no historians do not recommend, historians do not use hypotheses, historians do not theorize. Economic history theorize based on the past reflections, all right, past interrogations of events, all right, economic decisions, planning, resources, mobilization of capital, land, and all the stuff. So it is on the basis of that that economic historians interrogate and develop theory. It will be appropriate if everybody in the group can mute themselves. Can the person speaking mute his or herself? Can this person playing music mute his or herself, please? A theory is a formulated. Can we get the person to mute his or herself, please? So a theory is a formulated uh, concept to guide research and generate discussions and argument to widen the focus of historical investigation. So the role of theory is basically to generate more ideas, all right, rather than just giving an analysis like other branches of history when they provide an investigation about a particular phenomenon. No, these are usually cast in iron and stone, but uh, economic historians develop theories, all right, which are usually related with other theories in other disciplines, and the convergence of that, all right, is where the historians is able to generate discussions and argument to widen the focus of historical investigation. So theories are essential for economic history, while it is usually not for other branches of history. All right. In economic history, uh, a selective use of economic theory is adapted when necessary, and I've mentioned that. All right, depending on the topics. All right, the theme of research. All right, for instance, if you're working on demography, population, for instance, certain theory might be very, very appropriate for an economic historian. I've told you about the Malthus theory of population that we're going to adopt in the course of this course. There are other courses like growth theory, there's dependency theory. For instance, there is the modernization theory, there is this vent for surplus theory, all right, to mention but a few. So other theories are those of population, economic growth, all right, economic development. There is Marxist economic theories, all right, there is substantivist economic theory, all right, there is structural functionalism theory, which historians also borrow from fields like sociology and anthropology, all right, to understand the structural workings of any economy. So, in the study of colonial economy of West Africa, for instance, the application of dependency theory has helped economic historians to expose the various colonial methods of exploitation and underdevelopment of the various British and French colonies. All right, how the colonialist European created two different war unequal relationship. You have the metropole and you have the periphery. All right, so it has helped to show the level of uneven development that occur throughout the period of colonialism. All right, there are quite a number of other theories that has helped to illuminate the understanding of the structural working of the economy. So the relations of production and the differences between the center and periphery theories, as I've mentioned, helps us to know why there was the colonial conspiracy of silence, for instance, on the policy of industrialization in Africa, why the Europeans, all right, came and after hundreds of years, they left, all right, the areas, the environment they colonized was off from how they met them. So this has helped to show the level of underdevelopment of West Africa, the deindustrialization in West Africa, and all of that. After colonialism. So theories are so essential. That's what I'm trying to say. So there are various forms of theories. Two popular theories on the traditional African economic systems, for instance, are the substantivist theory. You can note it down, and after this class, you go and investigate what is substantivist theory is. Then there is formalist theories, for instance. The other time I mentioned dependency theory. I mentioned the vent for surplus theory. You can write all of this down and go and interrogate their meaning at the end of this class fundamentally. So the no, the various theories are used. These theories I've mentioned are both used or formulated by Euro-American anthropologists, particularly in their adventure, in their attempt at explaining the characteristics of traditional societies and the nature of their exchanges before contact with the Europeans. So, with all of this, it is very, very important to know that some theories are are good, some of other theories have been introduced to maintain the status quo. All right, but so it is left for the economic historians to dissect whatever theory he or she is adopting in the reconstruction of the economic past of society. So theories are not cast in stone. They are not absolutely precise. All right, they are not cast but they provide a wider lens for economic historians to be able to analyze phenomena that he or she is trying to interrogate. Right. I want to try as much as possible to move to uh, the the next topic, basically, which is the definition, the history and other disciplines. So the only way we can move faster in this topic, in this class, because I have heavy responsibility here at Oxford, the best way we can cope is to take at least two topics each time we meet. Right. So I will try to take the remaining few 1 hour, all right, to take another topic so that we can at least be on a safer pedestal, faster pedestal. So, in conclusion, what you have said in this module basically is that economic history is a popular discipline and it is a unit of the general history, all right? It has its own multidisciplinary methodology, all right, which, all right, borrows from various fields, as we're going to see in this next class. All right. Sociology, political economy, political science, anthropology, statistics, botany, all right, and what have you. So it borrows many insight theories and concepts from social sciences, all right, and it helps us to understand how economic decisions are made, how resources are utilized, all right, and uh, to organize, they also understand how economic societies organize their means of production, how to produce, what to produce, what factors to combine, and how to sell the product at profitable prices. So these are very, very critical, in understanding the workings of economic history. So economic history is a study of behavior in the past concerning how people in various social formations go about their productive activities to satisfying the three basic needs of man. So that is food, clothing, and shelter. So economic history maintains the closest relationship with economics to selectively apply its theories and concepts basically to the interpretation of the past. All right. This is what economic history is about. So we have said that economic history is different from the general history, right, in which kings or prominent people and groups play some key role in historical interpretation. Like the core is political history, where it deals with history of kings, all right, like some people will say history of Obaje, Obaoje, and all of that. Economic history deals with economic decisions, all right. It deals with how societies organize their means of production and how this actually reflect on the existential well-being of the people in the society. Okay, so we've mentioned that it's mentioned how trade are conducted, how exchanges, forces of demand and supply, and the control and regulation of the economy by the government are actually done, either through taxation by law and all the stuff, the policies adopted. So if you might if you might be asked, for instance, in the assessment or the class or the exam session to discuss the nature and the meaning of economic history. So this is what as we have discussed so far. So you need to reflect on this topic, all right, as you proceed. So should you ask to discuss the nature and the meaning of economic history, how would you be able to analyze that? All right. So I think if you have any question at this juncture, please you can ask. All right. So for the relevant books you need to read, there is Ulukoju and Lawa and Falui, Fundamentals of Economic History. The book is at the department. They sell it in the department. If you go to the secretariat, you will be able to buy a copy of this book. I don't know how much it is. So, but it's a very, very relevant materials that you need to get to understand this course more better. Introduction to Fundamentals of Economic History. Then you might go online to look for at all right, the study of economic history, 1974. All right. So having said this, we would proceed at this juncture to take a look at another interesting topic, right, which is basically history, economic history, and other disciplines. Before I go into that, is it possible for us to get a feedback, right, about the discussion? If you have any question about what you have first discussed before we move swiftly to the second topic. Any question? Any question? So if there are no questions, we will go directly. If everybody who is not talking can mute themselves, except you have a question, when I ask you if you have a question, but if you don't have, in the absence of any question, I would implore you to probably mute yourself. Is that okay for everybody? All right, so at this juncture, I'll go into the next topic, which is the economic history and other disciplines. All right, so I've mentioned at the beginning that economic history shares profound relationship with various disciplines in the social sciences and even the natural sciences, all right, such as economics, and political economy and all of that. So we want to look at this relationship. So what is important for us to state, right, is that economic history as a branch of as a branch of history maintains a closer relationship with such disciplines as economics, sociology, geography, statistics, culture, and political economy. All right, but also other disciplines in the natural sciences. Borrows many theories and analytical skills from social sciences with the narrative retelling of how economic activities and services were organized in the past, especially with the use of factors of production. So the core objective in this course basically is that at the end of this course, and everybody mute themselves for the last time. I would not want you to provoke me to end this class abruptly. You pay dearly for it. The person who is disrupting this class will be sanctioned with everybody. Can the course rep identify the person muted to mute his or herself? Okay, Princess. So at the end of this unit, our objective is to explain the nature and meaning of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary activities in teaching, research and publication in economic history, to know why economic history depends more on economics, understand the contribution of other disciplines to economic history, and to explain the structure of an economy, and to understand the relevance of economic history in society, especially in the field of human endeavor. So, how did economic history develop? What are the factors? Because for every discipline, there are critical questions that should underpin basically the discussion about the phenomenon, right? So, how did economic history develop? So, from the 18th century to the mid 20th century in Europe uh, and North America, the traditional divisions of knowledge into autonomous disciplines was questioned on account of new development in the study of the natural sciences. So, industrial revolutions and the inventions of new technologies also helped, all right, to redefine the core of various fields of human endeavor, like history, political science, sociology, and all of that. So, to answer some fundamental questions, human knowledge had to be fractionalized into more scientific disciplines, all right. And in this case, allowances were made to remove the prevailing conventional barriers so that scholars could benefit from other disciplines. Their methods, such as their analytical tools, their concepts, their theories, and explanatory skills. And this is known as uh, interdisciplinary approach to academic studies. So this method combines the idea of unity and the synthesis in syllabus, in education and research. And the objective was clearly very, very simple. It was basically to answer questions, to address broader issues rather than the narrow explanations given without exploring the connections with other disciplines, what other disciplines are saying, right? So it was also meant to solve problems that are beyond the scope of any one discipline, because history, even as it's defined, is not a no, it's not a narrow discipline. The issue of monocausality in historical investigation is usually something that is not really helpful. It was considered that interdisciplinary studies would facilitate meaningful interactions among scholars of different academic fields, right? For
Mo fẹ́ fi
collaborative
picture.
and for borrowing concepts. So it was under these circumstances that economic history was
Emmanuel. This is not you.
Emmanuel Esther. Can you mute yourself? What's this? You all have to be very careful. If you continue to constitute distractions to the class, there is a sanction for that. Another person, Mufuta or Moise. Someone is raising his hand. Badmos Jibola. Have a question?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, please.
So I want to ask if you are still sharing your screen because we can't see any notes for the topic.
Yeah, I'm having difficulty sharing it. That's why I'm still following up. I'm just trying. I'm having difficulty sharing the screen. Just follow on with the class.
Okay, sir.
So I was saying that today, the different method is adopted for general understanding of different topics in economic history. All right, and this is due to the modernization of the field. All right, took place in the second half of the 20th century, because they believe that no discipline can be an island to themselves. They have to interact with other disciplines. Sociologists must interact with economic historians. All right, historians must interact with people in statistics. All right, imagine a historian writing about the economic development in Lagos. How would you be able to arrive at a logical conclusion without interacting with or using methodologies in statistics, for instance, in sociology, which deals with demography, employment, all right, education, and all of that, with political sciences, which deals with political regulations, policies, and all the stuff. And maybe in anthropology, which deals with human behavior and all of that. So multidisciplinary activities are not directed to the goal of unifying and integrating existing disciplinary concepts and theories. So in teaching, for instance, the activities and teaching activity, the activities juxtapose concepts, all right, borrow tools from other disciplines, as we have mentioned, and this cross across disciplines, across faculties, all right, and across various field of human studies. So what is the relationship with economics? So we want to start by looking at them one after the other. So economic history would probably be very, very scientific, or right, would be unscientific without borrowing tools and approaches right from various disciplines. So there are many tools, there are many methodologies that economic history borrows. All right, so it is therefore inevitable for disciplines generally to adopt multidisciplinary approach to examining various aspects of economic activities of their society. And this is why you see fields like economic sociology, geography, statistics, culture, political economy, borrowing or interacting from each other. So economic history, therefore, is a blend of theoretical and analytical tools of economics and other social science disciplines, with narrative of retelling how economic activities, policies and labor, productivity, all right, and combination of natural resources, are used to enrich the quality of life of the people. So we go straightly. So let's start from uh, sociology. I've mentioned that some of the key disciplines that are related to economic history are economics, they are sociology, geography, statistics, culture, political economy, demography, anthropology, and so. So we'll just take a few of them. Sociology for now. So sociology is what has proved a very, very useful discipline for the research, teaching, and pedagogy in history. Economic historians rely solely, especially on sociology. Sociology enables historians to write social history by using its techniques and methods, all right, in teaching and also understanding, development. So this discipline affords some insight into social relationships, the social structure, private life, social solidarity, social conflicts, social groups, and social classes. So many of its concepts and technical terms have been used by historians, adopted, incorporated into their vocabulary. E.g., for instance, you see historians writing, they use terms like survey analysis, network analysis, content analysis, comparative method. So these are conceptual tools used by sociologists in formulating general laws and building models that helps us to understand the society better. All right. So while economic historians write biographies and so they incorporate various methods from sociology. Another field is geography. So geography is the science of human environment, right, which studies man's use of the natural environment and how man is influenced by the environment. So geography, for instance, enables historians to write environmental history with emphasis on how man in the past reacted to many environmental challenges, for instance, in agriculture, in manufacturing, all right, and how man was able to overcome several challenges, environmental challenges. So geography, as we learn, is about how different weathers, conditions, or distribution of rainfalls, drainage system, etc., influence choice and the use of land. All right. So, for instance, an economic historian writing about agricultural development, as I did in my own doctoral dissertation, my PhD thesis was a history of cocoa production in West Africa. So geography geography proved instrumental in understanding the structural workings of the various climates, all right, the climatic conditions, the topography, the ecology, all right. The study of geography helps us understand why some regions are more productive, all right, in the production of agricultural produce than the other, all right, due to varying climatic conditions. So imagine that an economic historian working on agriculture does not integrate geography. So what he or she will produce will be a monoculture, at least discussion about the discipline. Okay. So another field, basically, of course, is statistics, right? And statistics, as I've mentioned earlier, is the collection of data concerning some particular phenomena in any country, in any civilization. So it's about development at a given period and at a particular space or region. So some mathematical methods are usually used to draw inferences about relations between different variables, like economics, all right, like economic historians use statistical data, all right, when available to describe the functions of specific economic institutions like guilds, like farms, like firms, bank, market, or other sectors of the economy. They use it to measure how much a sector is performing, but it is through statistics that economic historians will be able to determine what measure of improvement or improvement needs to be made in a particular context. So in economic history, statistical table are usually used. For instance, when you read some works, you see the historians doing some calculation on tables. All right. So maybe revenue and expenditure, maybe it has to do with export and import, census figure, price index, percentages for measuring rate of economic growth, or even debt and birth rate, or inflation, or the rate of unemployment, or even the gross domestic product GDP, the gross national product GNP, and so on and so forth. So without statistics, it will be very impossible for an economic historians to do a rational quantitative history, and it will be very, very very boring history. So another relevant discipline is culture, right? Economic historians also borrows insight from culture, or if you like sociology again, use a section of cultural studies. All right, if you like cultural study. So culture is, as we know, is a totality of the ways of the people in a given community, in a given geographical location. So culture relates people's knowledge, beliefs, arts, morals, laws, customs, and habits. So in cultural studies, an economic historian working with cultural experts wants to know more about how people behave, what beliefs, what acts, what morals, what law, customs, and habits shapes people's economic decisions. All right. Right. And this is very fundamental. For instance, why is it that certain people from different parts of the world engage in a particular occupation while others also engage? So how customs and traditions, all right, belief system also shapes economic decision. So these are very, very key in understanding society. The institutions such as social system, exchanges, families are key, all right, to economic historians. We'll move to political economy, all right, which is concerned with the problems of the arrangement and management of wealth, all right, of a state, of a community, all right, a town or a country. So economic policies are usually formulated and implemented to manage the wealth of his for the welfare of the majority of the people. So, but these policies usually have moral, political, and social implications. So, therefore, there is bound to be conflict between economic advisors and also the end users. So, in this regard, it is always very apposite for economic historians to draw insights from political economy to know how differences are resolved. It helps historians to write about history of states, kingdom, empire, economies, countries, and all the stuff. So an economic historians writing about development must take from fields such as political economy. All right. Similar to that is demography, which is also a subfield in sociology. So, what is demography? Demography is the study of human population, for instance, their growth and and their decline due to changing patterns, either in terms of migration, whether in terms of fertility and mortality. So, for instance, and an economic historian who wants to write about economic growth in any context, for instance, in Nigeria, will have to take into consideration the roles, or especially in China, what role, because China is the second, no, if not the first largest economy in the world. So an economic historian trying to write about the development in China, history of economic development in China, must take cognizance of the role of population. China, I think, has the largest population in the world, about 1.4 billion people. All right. So, an economic historian would look at demography, right? Typically, how does migration, how does fertility, mortality, helps to shape population, which increases the productivity of the people. So, historians develop interest in population studies to investigate the causes and consequences of migration, for instance, population structure, and also change. So these insights from demography, from the theories and concepts they derive, helps historians to write urban history, good urban history. I am an urban historian also. So it helps historians to write about urban settlement, housing problems in a country. All right. Like for instance, Dakar, like Nairobi, like Lagos, Johannesburg. All right. So, to the economic historians of colonial history, a large population meant a large market, for instance, uh, for the manufactured goods. So, it's important for economic historians to lean on the works of demographers, right? Usually sociologists. Another relevant field is anthropology, all right, or economic anthropology, if you like. So, economic anthropology provides information concerning the economic life of non-literate people. All right. So people, especially the pre-colonial society. So anthropologists usually study economics, its theories, the laws, the analytical tools, and methodologies to study the economic behavior and the lives and the lifestyle of pre-industrial people, all right, society. So these are very, very useful uh, disciplinary approach that economic historians help adopt in doing a very good job about the reconstruction of any economic past wants to interrogate. So we have seen so far that no society, no field of endeavor, for instance, can exist in isolation. In trying to reconstruct the past, economic historians learn from various disciplines and expand the frontiers of historical knowledge by adopting methodologies and tools and techniques, concepts and theories from different disciplines, which I have mentioned only but a few. So it is only through these interactions that an economic historian will be able to make sense of the phenomenon that he or she is interrogating. As it is usually said, right, as H. Card noted, history is a continuous process of interactions between the present and the past, and unending dialogue between the historians and its facts. But in this case, it is an unending dialogue between the historians and other disciplines. No historians would do a meaningful research without interacting with other scholars in different fields of specializations who use different approaches and methodologies to understand the same thing he or she is studying. I'm currently at University of Oxford now for a fellowship. All right, I'm working on a research on the legacies of slave trade and colonialism, on social structure, kingship system in Africa. But it would amaze you that I'm affiliated to 3 colleges. One of the colleges I'm affiliated to is the Norfield College of Tropical Medicine, College of Medicine. So one you would want to ask that what is a historian or economic historians doing, with people in the field of medicine. So for me to have a broader understanding of what I'm discussing, right, especially in the colonial context, all right, I need to interact with people in the field of medicine to see how the psychological framing of people in the 15th, 16th, 18th, 19th century, all right, were wired for them to have been able to engage in such a gigantic but very nefarious economic enterprise, the slave trade, capturing people and selling them, maiming, raping people, dehumanizing them, all right, and subjecting them to torture and horror. So, so you would see that it is not out of point for economic historians to relate, even outside the social sciences. Now, I'm now interacting with people in the core sciences, medicine, all right, and all of this, and so on and so forth. So it is imperative for economic historians to maintain a closer relationship with social sciences, especially economics, sociology, demography, statistics, on account of their useful concepts and theories, their methods, and analytical skills. So, in conclusion, economic history now maintains status of a social science. That is the point. So, economic historians are not usually based in the arts and humanities. As an economic historian, for instance, me, who is an economic historian, I usually say I'm a development historian and cultural anthropologist because my work has taken me beyond the boundaries, all right, of history. I now work more, all right, as sometimes economist, as ethnographer, as an anthropologist, all right, in different climes and so on and so forth. So rather than just doing a monocosa work, basically. So what we have said is that although a subunit of general history, in summary, economic history has established its identity and autonomy. So by virtue of borrowing concepts, theories, and research methods, all right, from social sciences, it has popularized the use of interdisciplinary pedagogy, to understand the details about uh, past economic activities in any society. All right, basically. So the discipline of economic history, which evolved in Europe and North America in the 19th century, had undergone many changes, all right, which were diffused to Asia, to Africa. And there are many societies of economic history and their respective journals in different countries. There is the World Economic History Society, all right, where all economic historians from across the world converge. All right, I'm a member of such, for instance, and apart from annual meetings of these societies, the World Congress of Economic Historians, they create a forum periodically, for scholars of various disciplinary orientations to meet and exchange ideas on the state of the art in the disciplines which they belong to. So, having said all of this, it is important for us to have a broader understanding of the discourse of economic history, right? So, in your reading, again, read Fundamentals of Economic History by Ayodeji Olukoju and Lawal Falui, which I said is available in the departmental office for you to buy. It's probably no more than 3,000 euros. So if you read that book with other ones, you'll be able to access in the library. You'll be fine and good for this course. So in the exam, you might be asked to, if the question comes, to identify the relationship between economic history and other social science disciplines. So you must be able to draw the connections, all right, properly. If you have any question, you can ask, please. Any question? Any question? All right, Chino Yerem. Christian.
Thank
Please
you,
go
sir,
ahead.
for the teaching. Okay, my question is, will the recording be provided, like be shared, because network condition and the slides were not like showing up. So will the recording be shared with us, sir?
Yes, I'll try to put the recording on my YouTube later today, in the evening today. Please tell the course rep to remind me. I'll try to upload it to my YouTube, and I believe that should
Okay.
make you should make it more accessible for everybody. So you go maybe from the evening, you could check my YouTube, you're able to see the recording so that you listen to it over and over and form your own notes right from there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other question? So I believe the course rep has taken all the attendance as I instructed. Right, so the course rep Aka you kindly extract the attendance and send them to me subsequently so that I can save them as and have a record. Thank you. If there are no other questions, we'll see again next week, this time next week. I wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.